and welcome to the next episode of this Healthy Life podcast. I'm very excited to have my next guest and dear friend, Tracy Mullholland, here with me today. Tracy is an actor, producer, singer, wellness, and executive functioning coach based in Los Angeles. She also produced and wrote the short form series Girl at a Bar, based on her experience with Lyme disease, set to release this summer. Tracy is a certified Chopra Coach and sitting to be a certified national board health and wellness coach this month. She specializes in coaching clients with chronic illness, ADHD, and creative professionals. Tracy, welcome. So happy to have you here today.
Hi, Erica.
Hello. So I want to start with having you just do kind of a quick intro about yourself, you know, how we met and some of your story and how you came across being on my podcast today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. We met through the Lyme community. I have Lyme disease, and we met with Ride Out Lyme. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right before the pandemic.
Yep, the last ride.
I think it was a week before.
I think so. Yeah. Everyone was a little on edge there, but we somehow made it through.
In retrospect, we're very lucky. We were all in a hot, sweaty room the week before.
I know, right?
Yeah. So I'd worked with Bay Area Lyme Foundation, and they connected me with Ride Out Lyme, and that's how I was in that community. But yeah, I got Lyme about 13 years ago now, and was disabled for a couple of years with no answers, as is common. My symptoms were primarily nerve pain in my arms. Nobody could figure out what it was. They thought maybe I had tennis elbow or carpal tunnel at first. Then it progressed really rapidly. I was having brain fog, stomach issues, and was sleeping like 16 hours a day within the span of all of that started. And within 6 months, I was pretty much bedridden. And that started the journey, got no answers, and then spent about 2 years trying to get a diagnosis, and then did, and was in treatment off and on for several years after that, as is common as well.
Yes, absolutely. And how are you doing today? Are you feeling pretty good? Are you still managing a lot of symptoms?
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good, though I had an unfortunate mold exposure last year, which, as we know, does not help anything.
No, it does not. It always takes things down a notch for sure.
Yeah, I was lucky that I hadn't had that in the mix, but I had some black mold exposure in where I was living at the time. So I had to deal with some mast cell activation issues from that, some Epstein-Barr virus getting reactivated, so some fatigue, but doing things for that and helping heal the gut. And so, getting there, moving past that hiccup.
Good. Glad to hear things are going in the right direction because, mold definitely is something that goes hand in hand with mold and oftentimes can be just as debilitating. So, a lot to manage.
The fatigue was actually more debilitating with the mold than it was with Lyme.
And I feel like it causes a lot more inflammation in your body as well when you have kind of like that cytokine cascade of inflation from the mold that it sets off. So, which is not good for Lyme. So.
Yes.
Glad you figured that out. Glad that didn't take another 2 years.
Yes, it was very quick. It was after a couple of weeks of not feeling well, we're like, oh, there it is. Okay.
Absolutely. I feel like after Lyme, you start to become like your own doctor and like being able to kind of self-diagnose things much more quickly than it did that initial kind of, first year or two of trying to figure out like what's going on and why you're not feeling well and where you're having all these kinds of crazy symptoms.
Yeah, you learn those skills to figure out things on your own. And also back when I first got sick was 2011. I don't think there was as much out there too. So there's a lot more resources. It's just figuring out how to find them and then what to do with the information.
Exactly. Absolutely. And then finding doctors that are actually going to listen to you and going to help you and educated in it because many of our doctors aren't.
Yes. And I want to say it was even more so 12 years ago, but I'm hearing stories now where it's the same.
Still just as bad. We've just kind of discovered like the right pocket, I feel like, that's helping us, right? See it a little bit different. So I also want to talk about a project that you're doing. It's called Girl at a Bar. I got the opportunity to see the screening of it last year, which is so awesome. It was really great work. So I would love for you to share a little bit about that project and what that's about. And yeah,
well, thanks for coming to that screening. You were at one of the earlier ones in last fall, which was cool. Yeah, so it's a short form series. It's 5 episodes of 10 minutes, and it's inspired by my true story with Lyme, but also going to bars once a week by myself for a year in LA. So the story is about a girl who's recovered from Lyme, but still managing, as we do, a lot of things, but able to get out in the world a little bit more than she was before. So she's given the okay by her doctors to like have a drink for the first time in half a decade because she couldn't with Lyme treatment. A lot of times drinking alcohol is not part of the plan. So she plans this party and people bail, as happens in LA sometimes, goes out to the bar down the street and realizes that nobody knows she's sick there. And what does that look like to not have that story be the forefront and the main thing in the conversation? So she decides to go out, continue going out by herself and figure out who she is as a healthier person. Having been through this really profound thing. So yeah, I got a grant to make it from Bay Area Lyme Foundation right before the pandemic, and then took a while to figure all of that out with the restrictions for filming. We filmed it and then premiered at a festival in September last year. We have one more coming up in a couple weeks in June in Vermont, and then we will be releasing it.
Awesome. Very exciting. So where are people going to be able to see that?
I don't know yet, but you can go to girlatabar.com and I'll have it on my Instagram and things like that. But it's just girlatabar.com. We'll have the info on the release and somewhere available hopefully soon.
Yeah, and I'm starting to notice, here and there, every now and then, you see things on film or like in series and things like that of like, people mentioning Lyme disease. Or I even saw an episode of something recently where someone had like black mold in it, and I was like, wow, there's starting to be some awareness for some of these chronic conditions. What have you found just from, like the screenings that you've done and stuff, trying to bring more awareness to these sorts of conditions on screen? What has been kind of your experience with that?
Yeah. I really wanted to also include people with other chronic invisible illnesses in the show. So we have someone who had complex regional pain syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and a lot of the actors in the show as well have Lyme or some other chronic conditions. I wanted to employ and have people part of it as much as possible. But I don't see that much on screen of chronic invisible illness, Lyme included, and beyond, autoimmune diseases, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. I've heard it in passing in like a couple sitcoms. Years ago, I think I heard a couple jokes in a sitcom that weren't necessarily even the right information in the joke. Someone made a joke like you could catch it in the same air as somebody, and I was like, that's not. And I wanted to write the writers of the show, and there was a character recently in a movie who'd had it, but I really, beyond that, maybe a handful of things I've seen in scripted. So we in our community have some great documentaries. There's not as much scripted about Lyme and other chronic illnesses. And so this show was to hopefully start bringing that more into the forefront. And yeah, what was the second part of the question?
Just kind of like what your experience has been with like people being receptive to it. Like are people using this kind of as a way to learn about the conditions or, learn about something that they didn't know, or kind of what's been your experience with the audience so far and feedback on a show kind of centered around that?
Yeah, I think some people came into some of the screenings and didn't really have much information and came out of it knowing a bit more. We integrated some facts before the episodes. Also in the script, there's a balance between information and entertainment surrounding it. The show is a dramedy, so there's elements of drama and comedy, but in it I tried to infuse some education while still making it be an entertaining show to watch. And so I think that people came out of it learning a bit more, and then some people who came who had Lyme really felt seen, and that was really lovely to get some messages about that and saying I'm seeing myself on screen in a way that it hasn't been portrayed before, and that was nice. And then the process of making it for myself, was nice to know that something will be out there, though vulnerable, but out there to help other people be able to be seen as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I hope to see more. Are you going to have a sequel for it or any other projects with it?
Yeah, we'll see when it comes out if we get financing to do a second season, or if this is what it's meant to be, is just this one season of the 5 episodes. And then I'm also going to do a podcast where I task people to go out and be Girl at a Bar on their own, see how to get out of their comfort zone in their life. And that's fun and just a way to continue the concept. So that will be also releasing the same time as the show.
Awesome. So what were some of your takeaways? So you did this. We went out for a year, right? And you went to a new bar every week. So what were some of the big takeaways that you felt? Because I think it's common, like when you're sick and you have kind of like the same circle of friends, everyone knows you as like sick, or you might cancel plans, or you might not be able to do this. And that almost kind of becomes your identity to them, even if you're not trying to make that your identity. It's like obviously a part of like your day-to-day life, but like so a lot of times people start to kind of identify you as like the one with Lyme, the one that's sick, or the one that can't do things. So what was that like to kind of shed that a little bit and, like you said, go to a bar where someone knew that you weren't sick and kind of almost like reinvent yourself in a way, like kind of recreate yourself like this new kind of coming out, right? So what was that experience like?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because I had done this experiment of going out by myself before I got sick, and then I got sick and I did it again, and it was a much more profound reason to be out and reclaiming myself in a way. So I had the juxtaposition of the two experiences, which was really interesting, being more able-bodied and then having gone through being disabled for so long and then coming out of it. I think that, well, in terms of fun stuff, I mean, it's LA, so it was a cool experience just to be out. I think I went to like a total of 60 bars because some nights I went more than one. Yeah, so I got to feel like a traveler in my own town in a way. I got to meet people, some of which actually I ran into someone I met from the blog recently, and I hadn't seen them in like 8 years. So that's kind of cool in this town. But I think just the idea of not inventing, but like regaining yourself in a way can be applicable, not just going out to bars, but however it looks for anyone in the Lyme community.
Kind of like trying to reestablish yourself as like normal and like putting yourself back out and trying to not be just this kind of sick person that you've become, because you're so much more than that, right?
Yeah, it's a hard process. Yeah. And so I think for me, this was a way to characterize it and have it be on screen in that specific story. But I think for all of us, we all have our own experiences. How does that look with your friends and your family and your work community, taking time off and coming back into it? Or did you ever tell people what was going on? It's such a hard thing to navigate.
Yep.
Especially, I think, with invisible illness, too. So there's steps forward and there's steps back. And there's being honest and vulnerable, and maybe it's not received well because you've put yourself out on like a ledge a little bit. Yep. And then you step back, but then you take a step forward and be honest and vulnerable, and it's met well, or it's you don't care as much how it's met. It's really a process to come into your own and have that self-love, I think is first and foremost the most important thing in that process.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. So I have to ask, what was your favorite bar?
Well, this was a while ago that I did it. So, some of them are even closed down, but like Red Lion, Thirsty Crow. I really liked the ones that had animal names in them. So Surly Goat. That was just fun for me, depending on what was the bar. And then some of them were just nice evenings. So then it made the bar nicer because it was a nice night. Yep. So yeah, but I don't go out that much to bars anymore. So
you're going to have a new series. Yeah. What's the next one going to be? Is it going to be coffee shops or tea houses, restaurants?
I don't know. Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool if you pick like a different venue or, type of place for each season if this were to continue.
That would be interesting. Yeah. I originally thought it would be cool to do each season as a season of the year in the story, fall, spring, and everything. It didn't end up turning out to be that way for season 1, but I think part of it is because I don't go out to bars much, that it was out of my comfort zone so much. But when I'm out, I love talking to people, and so it doesn't really matter where the setting is. Yep. So yes, it could be in a tea shop, it could be in a coffee shop. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing how that project's going to grow. So
yeah, and I hope that you can be a guest on the podcast too.
Absolutely. I would love that. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. So you also do coaching. You work mostly with people that have chronic illness or health conditions, invisible illness, things that are similar to you. You're a certified Chopra coach. So can you talk a little bit about what that means and what that practice looks like?
Yeah, I got my coaching certification with Chopra Global, which is based off of Deepak Chopra's work and teachings. It's a 5-month program. So I just finished that last month. It was a very cool community to be a part of. When I wanted to get certified as a coach, that was the one that I felt most called to. It's now part of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which I know you went to. Yes. Yeah, so they merged, awesome. So that's cool. Yes. And then I'll be able to sit for the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches exam in July, which is probably when this will air.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. So share what that means and what that looks like.
Yeah, so there's a couple of accreditations for coaching. ICF coaching, a National Board of Health and Wellness, which is the route that I chose to do, which is a little bit more focused around health and wellness and well-being. So you need to do a program like Chopra that's accredited, and then you need to do 50 sessions of coaching in order to qualify to take the exam and then take the exam. But I do work for a company that does coaching exclusively for adults with ADHD. And then I have a private practice which focuses on clients with chronic illness, ADHD, and creative types, and anyone who wants wellness. So these certifications are just to add to that, add to the knowledge, make people feel comfortable that I have that background.
Some experience and background and training and all of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what do you kind of plan to do with it? So you said you work with a company right now that does mostly ADHD coaching and then your own private practice. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So what kinds of, things do you do with your clients? Like, do you just do 1 hour sessions with them and kind of guide them every week, or what does working with you look like?
Yeah. So I work for Shimmer. With Shimmer, that's the adult ADHD. And then in my private practice, I usually meet with clients about 50 minutes. And with ADHD, I like to do about 4 sessions at the top, and then can become a bit more flexible. Doing it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, check-ins. Some clients choose to do 50-minute sessions twice a week for 3 months. So it's really just based on the need and the amount of information. And it's a lot about like the executive functions of our brain, which I know you were probably going to ask me about.
I was going to get to that.
What are those?
You were beating me to it.
Yeah.
That was going to be one of my next questions. So let's dive right in.
Yeah. It can get easily confused with executive coaching, which is leadership career coaching in businesses. But executive functions are cognitive mental skills in our brain that are in the prefrontal cortex, which is right behind the forehead there. And they affect things like time management, planning, prioritization, organization, starting tasks, finishing tasks, working towards goals. They can also be impaired with impulsivity, emotional regulation. So executive functions can be dysfunctions or impaired with ADHD, with depression, with anxiety. I wonder also with Lyme, is it bacteria that's impairing some of our cognitive functions?
Absolutely.
Is it inflammation? So it's hard to tell from my experience what was impaired. I don't necessarily need a diagnosis or to know what's happening in the brain, but I work with the symptoms. So with chronic illness clients, is it I can't get a task done in the day? I'm in too much pain or too much fatigue. So how do we break that down? And on a really like micro level, simple level, it's just like, can we make it smaller, right? Can we do half of the thing in the morning and half of the thing in the afternoon? Can we do something like habit stacking, atomic habits? There's a lot of books that are all about that. So let's say you need to do heel raises for your physical therapy exercises. Can you do those when you get up to go to the bathroom? Versus if you're on the couch the whole day and the idea of getting up and doing that is just not, it's not going to happen. And it's really daunting, right? So can you do it at the same time as something you know that you have to do? Because we know we're going to have to go to the bathroom. So can we just have it be a little like micro thing that you can tag onto something else to help us accomplish things? And it can be really daunting to go from functioning with your calendar, functioning with your goals, to having so many things stripped away when you're sick and not know what can I accomplish, what can I realistically try to get done in a day. Yeah,
and sometimes, I mean, especially when you have Lyme or chronic illness, like, for me, like, taking a shower was exhausting me. It would exhaust me for hours. So I'm like, how am I supposed to do anything else if I can barely even, like, shower and function, like basic human things. So how do you help patients or clients that you work with, how do you help them kind of work on time management, especially when they're in such a depleted state that maybe taking a shower and, getting out of bed is all they can do in one day. And even that's a struggle versus, maybe people that are more high functioning or even ADHD that are kind of feeling like they're all over the place and can't get focused. So what are some strategies that you use with each of those clients?
Yeah. Showers was hard for me too. Yeah, especially with my hair.
Thankfully, I had short hair back then, but even that was like a lot. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, because you have to comb and it, and then put the conditioner in, and then it's like a whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah. So that would be a question of like, do you need to wash the hair every day, right? That could be as simple as just taking something away. So are we modifying something that's really difficult, like what's happening in the shower? Do you need to do all those steps every single time? Or is it just a quick rinse for a minute, right? And then same with other activities. Like for me, dishes was super hard, especially with the pain in my arm, getting that done. So can you do just a rinse and then set it aside for maybe the next day when you're feeling a little bit more up to it? Can you load it right away into the dishwasher and then run the dishwasher right away, even though you might want to wait till it's full, but you need the assist of a machine, metaphorically. You know, that's a very specific example, right? And then also just like tracking, that's a huge thing. Like what actually is taking up your time? Your energy in the day. Is it the shower? Because it can be hard to identify what are the things that are really pushing you overboard, especially if you've been quite well and then you're not, then it feels like everything is. But is that true? Like what is making the most effect on your fatigue, and kind of sparsing that out, breaking it down, like I said, seeing if we can talk about limiting beliefs, like if I get all this done, then I'm a better person, or I'm a successful person, or I deserve X, Y, and Z if I do the dishes, if I do whatever. And how can we be gentle with ourselves and not have that have to be this thing that is your self-worth because you're accomplishing so much in a day. And then with, more high functioning, there's differences across the scale, right? Like me year 1 and 2 is so different than me year 5 and 6. So then how do you start integrating in other things in your life, other goals, other interests, once you are functioning a little bit more, and not have that overwhelm and just the freeze? Because you're like, for me, it was like going from bedridden to being like, oh, I can see a friend. Oh, I can maybe use the computer a little bit, but it just felt very daunting.
And then you kind of like don't trust anything. You're just like, well, I don't want to do these things and then set myself back, like, you know, be back in bed for 3 days because I overdid it, or, you know, I couldn't do it. So it's like kind of like relearning to trust yourself, relearning to trust your body, and being apprehensive about it. And then like, I think it's like, it was similar for me. Like, you kind of start surprising yourself, like, oh, I did that and I didn't get tired. Oh, I can do more, or I can do this. And then sometimes you're just like, okay, I'm really going to push myself and see what happens. And it could go really well or it could go really bad. Like, you don't really know, but it's like kind of like almost relearning to trust yourself, relearning to trust your body. And I think as time goes on, you get better at kind of noticing those signals earlier on, versus I think before I got sick, I like really ran myself into the ground and was like always like high stress, drinking a lot of caffeine, like doing a lot of things, like not sleeping a lot, and wasn't really noticing those things. I was just kind of masking those things that were coming up, trying to get me to slow down and pushing through them. Whereas now if I'm like, okay, I feel really fatigued, really tired, I might like have to cancel something, or just be like, I need to rest, or, you know, make sure I carve out some time to take time to rest and let my body recover, instead of just drinking more coffee and being like, well, I have to get these things done, so I'm just going to plow through it. So I think you get kind of a new knowledge after chronic illness that I think helps you kind of start to trust yourself again once you get to that state.
Yeah. And I don't know if you do that with your clients too, but that's so true. And I resonate with everything that you just said. I had to set timers, especially with my arms, because I would want to overdo it once I was starting, or if I had a good day and I was starting to feel better. But I knew even if I went 30 minutes over what I thought I could do, that then the next day I wouldn't be able to do anything. So I had to just get in the groove where I had to stop myself. Then I could slowly get rid of the timers. Then I could listen to my body a little bit more. And then it was also like, if I'm feeling the pain, what does that mean? Is it mean it's only an hour or two? Or does it mean the whole week is screwed up? And there's fear around that, of course.
Absolutely.
And letting that go and trying to work with that too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you do a lot, so I want to hear a little bit about how you integrate some of the steps that you work with your clients on, and how you manage your time. And, you know, you're an actress, and then you also have the girl in a bar, and you are working with clients. So what do you do personally to kind of manage this and make sure that your health and well-being is kind of the top priority while you're still serving others and putting things out in the world?
Yeah. And I'm sure you can relate too, like having that energy and space while you're available for people, and for me, giving out knowledge clients-wise, and then also creatively, artistically too. So a lot of giving. So then how do you ground in the internal and keep that well? For me, it's walking is a big thing. That's the best for my body. I can't do much cardio beyond that. So I like to walk most days at sundown. That's a must-have. Meditation. I've been doing that for about 12, 13 years every day. That's super important. Mindfulness in general is great for me. And I was trying to coach 6 days a week, like a few hours a day. I thought that would be the plan, but then I quickly realized that I'm only coaching 4 days a week. And then I have those other days that are solely devoted to blocks of artistic time, working on the house or those sorts of things. So yeah, just kind of like giving myself grace that I can try something, I can try a schedule, but if it doesn't work, then I have to rearrange it and know, okay, I'm overextended. That didn't work for 2 weeks as I tried to balance them all. And, you know, some of them I'm still trying to balance. Like auditions come in and those are great because they have a deadline. But things like songwriting, I wrote a song for the show, and that worked out well because I had something that I had to do it for. But now I don't have to write music, but I would like to. So the things that don't feel as urgent or a deadline artistically, trying to integrate those because I know they fill up my soul in a way, but also
those give you energy and kind of feed you so that you have time to keep doing some of the other things too, right? Like you always have to kind of, the way I kind of think of our bodies now is almost like a energy bank account. There's things that we do that kind of replenish our bank account, and there's things that we do that drain our bank account. So, you know, you're going to have to do both things, but how do you keep that balance, and how do you constantly keep the things that are kind of filling you up going a little higher than the ones that are draining you?
Yeah, and then sometimes it's like, what is the thing that's filling you up, or you think is filling you up, but it's actually not.
Yeah, so that too.
Like, and I work with clients on that too, but like, is the TV show filling you up? It might be really interesting, but also if you're watching it right before bed as you're eating a snack and then you're going to bed, it might be fun while it's happening, but then it's not filling you up because then you don't sleep well the night and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Unless this girl at a bar.
Right? Yes, but she still has a bedtime. That's one thing in the show. I forget. I think she had to be in bed by midnight.
That was the rule.
Yeah, that was the rule. It's like realistically, you know, she's got to keep to the wake-sleep schedule the same. Yeah, so.
Awesome. And then, so can you share any like upcoming projects or launches you have going on? I know you're getting your certification. So how is that going to change your coaching practice? And are you going to be launching any new programs once you complete that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I'll just continue with my private clients, and that info will just be added to my website so that people know that I did that. And I'm looking to do maybe some group coaching, just some sort of program that's like a workshop or something for people who are just in the thick of it, and giving some of those skills that I kind of talked about with habits and routines for energy and pain management. So just trying to figure out how that works. Then we'll release the show. And then there's a song, as I mentioned, in it called Fade No More, and want to maybe do a music video.
Awesome.
For that. It's about my deepest time in Lyme where I was just not seeing any light and asking for the light to come help me in a, you know, metaphorical, spiritual, whatever way it was. And so trying to figure out what that imagery would be for that. And then doing the podcast for Girl at a Bar.
Awesome.
And then I'm also writing a children's book about a nephew and an aunt, and the aunt has a chronic illness. So what does it look like with the nephew hanging out with her during the day? She's taking her vitamins, she's going for a walk, but it can't be too long of a walk, you know, she's doing her physical therapy exercises, and he wants to help, and it's kind of based off of my nephew and when he was a bit younger, when I would visit and have to deal with the things that I was doing every day to manage. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you have some really awesome things coming up. So if people want to find more about you and your coaching practice and your Instagram and website, how can people find you?
My Instagram is just my full name, Tracy Mullholland, and the Girl at a Bar website is girlatabar.com. Tracy Eve Coaching is my coaching, and it's TRACYEVE. That's also my artist name for that song. And I just liked it because it's like the eve of something better
for you.
Something
new and big coming.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
So that's how you can find me, and
cool. Yeah. And we'll link to everything on the show notes as well. So Tracy, thank you so much. This has been great. I cannot wait to hear about your upcoming projects, and everyone needs to go out and see Girl at a Bar once it's out. You guys are going to love it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again too. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Erica. Nice to be here.